Hello, I want to share with you some cool ways to do forecasting using vibrational astrology. And I will show you what's coming up in this coming week for Donald Trump. I'm making this video on October 24th, 2020, just as an example. But if you're looking at this video years into the future, it's fine because the point is not so much what happens this coming week for him, but to show you this technique for forecasting. Okay, so here's Donald Trump's chart, the birth chart, and let's look at his 8 vibration chart, because the 8 vibration chart is so fundamental and so powerful. It's like zooming into the really important dynamic things going on for a person. And we happen to notice, among other things, there's several interesting aspects. One of them happens to be Mercury trine Saturn. And look at the orb. Mercury 10 Gemini 52, Saturn 10 Libra 31. It's very tight aspect. Now, what does it mean to have a very strong aspect in the 8 vibration chart? What it means is that that's a strong characteristic. However, because there are only 2 planets involved, it's a characteristic. It does not become a well-developed theme. It doesn't have the breadth and scope and power, the facility, and it tends not to become a behavior in your life, an activity. It requires 3 or more planets, because you can imagine when there are 3 planets, it's like a circuit. And it becomes an activity. It becomes a part of your life. If there are just 2 planets, as in this case, but it's strong, it's interesting. You have this characteristic, but it doesn't integrate in and become a big part of your life. So what does Mercury-Saturn mean? When Mercury and Saturn are aspected to each other, what does it mean? It means that there is good analysis. The person removes extraneous variables, you might say, and they think clearly. Now, is this true? Does Donald Trump think clearly? Well, again, these political people, we can get very emotional about these things. But my argument is this, that he does have good analysis. He thinks clearly. But at least as far as this configuration is involved, it doesn't integrate in with the rest of his life. So he can see things, he'll observe things, he'll note things. He's very good in real estate, other investments. He understands a lot about politics to have gotten to become president of the United States. He's not a dummy, but he's also not a scientist or an analyst, this kind of thing. So when you get these 2 planets involved, it gives a characteristic, but it doesn't necessarily integrate in with the rest of your life. Now, what I want to really talk about is forecasting, because an interesting thing happens this coming week with this Mercury trine Saturn in the 8 vibration chart. We can do an overlay of today's 8 vibration chart with the natal 8 vibration chart, and we will see the important dynamics going on in your life. The idea here is that the 8 vibration is so important, so powerful, that we want to see this. And one of the ideas in vibrational astrology is that there are these beautiful, intricate vibrational systems going on that we're currently not detecting with our usual methods in astrology. So let's do it. Here's a chart for October 25, that's Sunday, October 25, 2020, and here is the 8 vibration chart for it. Now, let's look at a biwheel. with the 8 vibration chart of October 25 in the outer ring, and Donald Trump's 8 vibration chart in the inner ring. So there is his Mercury trine Saturn at 10 Gemini and 10 Libra. Now look at the transits. Do you notice something? To show you, I'm going to pull it up and notate on it. So let's view it. I'm going to click on Save to File, View in a Graphics Program, bring this up. Let me slide this over to our captured area of the screen, and just quickly, I'm in the Windows Paint program, just quickly let me circle these things. Here is Mercury in his natal chart. Here is Saturn in his natal chart. There's that trine that I just showed you. And look at transiting Uranus, making a grand trine to the Mercury and Saturn. Uranus is at 11 Aquarius 30, and it's retrograde. There's the little retrograde glyph. So it's moving into an exact grand trine with his Mercury and Saturn. Very interesting. Now, I can use the time adjust. So I'm going to go over here to the interactive chart adjust and move forward one day. Now, because my current chart is the October 25 chart, let me show you what I mean by current chart. Let me cancel out of this. I'm selecting this from the October 25 chart. That's my current chart. If I go to the natal, I'm looking at the October 25 8 vibration chart. Whatever chart you select the buy wheel from is the one you're adjusting. So I'm selecting it from the October 25, and I go to the chart adjust, and I go forward one day. It moves the outer ring, but not the inner ring, which is what I want. On the next day, October 26th, Uranus is at 11 Aquarius 10, and it's getting closer and closer. Let's go to the 27th, and by the 27th, Uranus is now exactly trine Mercury. So we can see that in the 8 vibration chart, Uranus is moving, it's moving 8 times faster. So if you're in the 23 vibration, everything moves 23 times faster. So these outer planets are moving fast enough to create effects that don't necessarily last for months and months. On the following day, October 28th, Uranus is now right in the middle of this trine. In fact, it's starting to leave already. It's now exact to Saturn. And by the 29th, Uranus is leaving. So, it's now past Saturn. So it's exact to Mercury first, then to Saturn. By the 29th, Uranus is at 10 Aquarius 11. It's now past Saturn and leaving this configuration. That means that this coming week, from about the 25th to the 29th, Uranus, transiting Uranus, is exactly making a grand trine to the Mercury and Saturn. Okay? So it's going to trigger it. So I'm expecting that this coming week, Donald Trump is going to be very much in his, inventive way of thinking. So there's a lot of discussion right now as we're approaching an election here in the United States in a week and a half from now, what's going on with the coronavirus. And he's proposing, there will be a solution to it. Over the next several days, I expect him to really be talking about what's happening with the discovery of vaccines and other therapeutics, and just his sort of inventive, wild way of moving outside of an accepted norm. So we're going to see a lot of emphasis on this because Uranus is making a grand trine to Mercury Saturn. And what I found is, what the model is right now, let's just put it that way. The model right now is that when these transits become exact, that's when you really see them. And especially when the configuration is so tight. Now, just to make this clear, what's actually happening, Let's look at it in the natal charts, just to understand this a little bit more. Transiting Uranus is at 11 Aquarius 30. I'm now looking, oh no, that's the 8 vibration chart. On October 25, where is Uranus? Uranus is at 8 Taurus 56. Let's go to Donald Trump's natal chart to understand what's going on. And Uranus at 8 Taurus 56, I could pull up a bi-wheel, but you can, it's over here in Donald Trump's 9th house. It's actually making a sextile to Mercury. Uranus is from 8 Taurus 56 to Mercury at 8 Cancer 56 is sextile. Mercury and Saturn are almost exactly 15 degrees apart. And that 15 degrees is 1/24th of a circle, and then it appears as a trine in the 8 vibration chart. What's beautiful about vibrational charts is that you don't really have to know about the sextile and the 15 degrees and all of these angular distances. What the vibrational chart tells you is that when you take that 15 degrees between his Mercury and Saturn, and you take the sextile from transiting Uranus to natal Mercury, and then transiting Uranus to natal Saturn will be the sextile plus 15, 75 degrees. When you put that all together, there will be a consistent beat. They're all multiples of 15 degrees. And there's a rhythm there, which ends up being a trine in the 8 vibration chart. The great thing here is that you don't have to have an interest in numbers and fractions and all that kind of stuff and be like a nerdy kind of person who likes to crunch numbers. You just look at the pretty pictures. You just look at, let's pull it up again in this program. You just look at this grand trine and you know that it's 8 vibration. It's an internal motivating thing. So that one of the beautiful things about these vibrational charts is you do not need to think about fractions and numbers. Just think 8 vibration, inner dynamics, Uranus making a great grand trine to the Mercury Saturn. It's going to perk it up, make it spontaneous, and his analysis is going to be, all kinds of inventions and discoveries. He'll be talking about the latest therapeutics and how the scientists are discovering things, and coronavirus will disappear. Now, maybe he would talk about that anyway, I don't know, but what I'm emphasizing here is the technique. Now, what's interesting is, how did I find that? How, of all the configurations, all the vibrations going on, how did I know that transiting Uranus is making that grand trine? I will discuss that in a future video. I'm already 13 minutes into this video. I'll make another video about how you find these kind of things. But for now, let's just be content that if you have a way to find it, that when a transiting planet moves into this exact configuration, like just minutes, this very tight, let's look at it again, and then I'm going to show you one more, which is fascinating, in the 31 vibration. But just to finish this up with the 8 vibration, that when we look at Donald Trump's 8 vibration, with that Mercury trine Saturn, whenever a planet moves into a grand trine to that Mercury Saturn, or maybe here on this other end to make sextiles to both of them, something like that, it's going to activate that trine. And of course, this time it's Uranus, so it's going to be all about new discoveries. Like what are the people figuring out? So he'll really be pushing that in a even stronger than usual. Now, let me show you something else. It's not only like a fundamental strong vibration like 8, but let's take a less obvious one like 31. Here's Donald Trump's 31 vibration. Notice he has Jupiter and Neptune very tightly conjunct. I mean, like, whoa, 5-minute orb. They're really, really tight. And they also make aspects to Moon and Mercury. So he's got a strong 31 vibration. What does it mean? Jupiter and Neptune in 31 vibration gives a sense of possibilities. That that we need to just be open, that all kinds of things are possible. So Donald Trump is more inclined than is obvious to be open. He's smart enough, and not to talk about it a lot. I guess I don't really know him that well outside of what he's doing in politics right now. Excuse me, but say things like astrology or psychic ability. Hell, maybe he doesn't tell people, but does he consider that these things are possible? Oh yeah, he does. Does he consider that there could be scientific or other kinds of advancements way beyond what we imagine right now? Yes, because 31 is a sense of openness, of awe, of not putting things in a box. So he's totally open to anything being possible. And he doesn't really like a clearly defined thing. He's not that religious, for example. So there's this openness. What happens when something activates it? Well, it gets activated this week, just like we did with the 8 vibration. Here are the transits on October 25 in 31 vibration. And here is the bi-wheel. So now I'm doing the same thing with 31 vibration that we did with 8 vibration. I have Donald Trump's 31 vibration chart in the inner ring. There's that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. They're in the second house. And on the outer ring is the 31 vibration on October 25th. I did it for 12 noon, 12 noon in London, England. It doesn't matter because we're going to look at some slow-moving things. But I just set up a chart for 12 noon for teaching purposes to show how this works. And look at where Neptune is. Neptune is at 3 degrees Aries. Neptune's at 3 degrees Aries, retrograde, moving into the Jupiter-Neptune. Okay? So this means this Jupiter-Neptune is getting really wild, really Neptunian, really out there. And it's becoming stronger as we speak. So let's go into the time adjust. And by the way, let me show you this other thing that's really cool. See this Jupiter 25 degrees Pisces? Now remember, we're in the 31 vibration. Everything's moving 31 times faster. Jupiter's going to move up to the Jupiter-Neptune as Neptune, which of course is a slower planet than Jupiter, typically, and it is right now, is going to slowly move in, and they're going to combine together on the Jupiter-Neptune. We're going to end up with transiting Jupiter-Neptune on natal Jupiter-Neptune. And we have this idea in vibrational astrology that same planet to same planet, in other words, Jupiter-Neptune to Jupiter-Neptune, is really strong. Really stands out. So let's look at the time adjust. We go to the time adjust one day, and we move forward. So this is for Sunday, October 25th. Move forward to Monday, October 26th. Neptune's moved all the way back to 2 degrees. When you're in 31 vibration, things are moving 31 times faster. Neptune's moved from 3 degrees to 2 degrees, and Jupiter's jumped all the way to 29 Pisces. What happens on the 27th? On October 27th, boom, the whole thing is really tight. Jupiter-Neptune at 2 and 3 degrees of Aries, almost exactly conjunct the natal Jupiter-Neptune at 1 Aries. If I go to the 28th, Jupiter has now passed it. It's gone all the way up to 7 Aries, and Neptune is almost exact. And on the 29th, Neptune has now just barely passed, really exact. So what we're seeing is from about the 26th, 27th to the 29th, I would say even to the 30th, because Jupiter is exact on the 29th. So this coming week, transiting Jupiter and Neptune vibrate to 31 with his natal Jupiter-Neptune. Okay? So what I'm expecting to happen is not when we take the Uranus, Mercury, Saturn thing that we just talked about, inventive discovery, and Jupiter-Neptune open to everything, he's going to be going wild about how these therapeutics can perform magic, and he may get into other areas as well. Whereas imagination and openness, he probably won't be able to contain it because it's so strong for him, is the idea of the potentials, the possibilities. So it's going to be interesting to see what form it takes or if it happens at all. But again, let's think of some more examples in addition to therapeutics for the coronavirus. I'm not sure. Maybe something, it could be any area. Transportation, health, education, something about huge new possibilities. Could be unrealistic, but a lot of imagination and openness. So we'll see what happens. But also, as a public person, maybe, we won't know what's going on. But that's the idea of the transits. And one of the ways, we validate these ideas in vibrational astrology in many ways, but one of the ways is by looking at transits, because you have this short period of time, like these next 4 to 5 days. This is what we expect to be happening, and we expect it to be, let's say it should be conspicuous enough that we would see it in the news. So in a future video, maybe about a month from now, because I have a bunch of other things I want to do, I'll make another video on how you find these things. How did I find it, right? I actually found it very quickly. There's some cool software things that help you find this. And that are, well, I'll just explain it all a month from now. Or whenever I get to it, which it should be soon. Okay, my friends, so the bottom line is that when the transiting planets combine with the natal planets to build this very tight configuration, that's a big predictor, a big forecasting tool. And what we believe in vibrational astrology is we are now just beginning to unravel all of this and have the software tools and have the information and the understanding to peel the onion, so to speak, of astrology and discover all these configurations. Okay, well, that's it, my friends. Maybe I'll make a short video next week to just summarize whether any of this showed up or not. And if it doesn't, that's okay. This is an exploration. This is, a path of discovery. What I found is over 90% of the time, it's really pretty obvious. So it's fun. Let's see what happens this coming week. See if there's some pretty clear evidence of it. Thank you very much for listening, my friends. God bless. Namaste.